I want to talk about the networking piece a bit more, but this is a perfect opportunity to talk about DiSC and how you got involved. Not so much how you got involved, but sort of why do you nerd out on it so much, and why have you made it, you know, this is what you are presenting to companies, right? You are helping organizations in many ways work through these assessments and bringing the value, whether it's a sales team, whether it's a group of HR folks, or anything in between. Talk about, out of all the assessments, like what stood out to you, and why you have so much passion around the DiSC assessment.
Well, it is such a nerd thing to say that the thing that I get most worked up about is a personality assessment, but I do. I left a very comfortable, well-suited corporate HR job of 16 years to build an entire business around a personality assessment. And I come by it very honestly. And to be clear, it's not personality assessments in general. It is one in particular, and that is DiSC. And I know enough about the others to be dangerous with them, but yeah, DiSC is what I really get excited about. And I think well, I was introduced to it. I was a psychology major, in school, and really didn't come to know DiSC during that time, but through my corporate HR role. DiSC was a common language within our organization. It was more than just an assessment or a tool. I mean, those are good things, but I think when something becomes a common language and it's connected to the values of an organization, then it has some legs to it, that there's some power to it. And I saw the impact that DiSC in particular as an assessment could have on individuals, helping them on themselves and enhance self-awareness, but then also on teams, helping teams communicate more productively with one another and their stakeholders, whomever those people happen to be. And when I started to realize, okay, this is actionable. It's simple to wrap your head around. It's actionable. It's easy to run with and apply to your day-to-day work. I was really then curious about what was possible with it, and
Yeah.
started Harmony Insights, which is my primary company, to help organizations and consultants leverage DiSC with their teams, to build and grow teams that communicate effectively with diverse personality styles. And I think I've had people, I'm thinking back now to the people that I've had in various workshops, that regardless of their title, regardless of their age or their tenure, in their industry, they're sitting down to ask fundamentally important questions about who they are and how they do their best work, how they connect meaningfully with other people and communicate with influence. And I mean, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, Baxter, but like, that is such an interesting conversation to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah. So I was introduced to it a few years ago when I was leading a team, and there was this seminar, this working with difficult people, right? And so someone said, you may want to go to this because of this, team member that you have on your team. And I said, yeah, even if I don't get anything out of it, I give me a day away from this person, right? But no, in all seriousness, we get there, we start talking about this DiSC assessment, and I wasn't as familiar with that one. And we're talking about ourselves, and we're on a scale of what, and I'm like, okay, he keeps asking about us. When we're gonna get to these knuckleheads that we're all here to try to like deal with, right?
Right.
And then it clicked. I went, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. We have to learn our style and how we operate, how we communicate best, right? Because just like anything else, if we don't know ourselves, we're not gonna be much help to anyone else. And so it started to click, and yeah, very, very interesting stuff. So give me an example, if you wouldn't mind, Erich, about some of the work that you would do in an organization, like just between inner teams and that communication piece, and how this can help
Mhm.
with that.
So you mentioned being at a conference for difficult personalities, we'll say. Well, as it turns out, I think whenever any two or more people are together in the same space, there's going to be conflict. And you don't have to qualify either person as a quote unquote difficult person. It's just you're different people, and so there's going to be conflict. And so um, there's a lot of talk, or there has been for years, about alleviating that conflict, resolving it entirely, so that there isn't any. And I'm a strong believer that conflict can be a good thing. It has to be managed productively. And so what I like to do is I like to come into organizations, and it's a spectrum. There are organizations on one end, or teams on one end, that are toxic, dysfunctional, not communicating well with one another or their stakeholders. There's been turnover, trust issues, and conflict is a word, honestly, that comes up pretty regularly, right? And those people can use some assistance. At the other end of the spectrum, there are teams that are operating really well, and they're firing on all cylinders, and they're hitting the ground running, and whatever metaphor you want to use, but they can still use some help enhancing self-awareness and relationships with one another. And so I see my job as coming in and using DiSC as that common language, helping people to connect meaningfully with one another, to be vulnerable, to say, this is how I do my best work. This is what I need from the world in order to feel as though I'm connecting with other people. This is my natural sales style. This is my natural leadership style, and really embrace that and be proud of whatever comes most naturally to you. Number one. Number two, recognize that your sales style is at times not going to match the buying style of your client, that your leadership style at times is not going to match how the people you're trying to lead want to be led, and that your simple communication style isn't always going to resonate with somebody else. And then three, once you understand yourself, you appreciate this cognitive diversity that we all bring to the table. Number three is, what do I do about that? What do I do with that information? How can I adapt so that when I'm leading, managing, selling to, or simply communicating with Baxter, I'm confident in what I bring. I understand and appreciate and embrace and celebrate what Baxter brings to the conversation. And then I'm able to change my language to suit him, not insist that he changes his language to suit me. Mm-hmm. And the most effective communicators, leaders, fill in the blank out there, are those who are able to adapt to others and not make others adapt to them. And that's where influence in the workplace really begins.
Mm.